B, Loretta Rice to address the council regarding forgiveness of sewer. Loretta, come on up.
Oh, sure. My name is Loretta Rice. I'm here with regard to the location of 520 Park Avenue. I got a call on Monday, I think it was, that almost 9,000 gallons of water had been utilized, and 800 and some odd gallons had been utilized in a 24-hour period. When the ice storm came, we put a kerosene heater in the basement. Of course, everybody knows how long we were without electricity. My son came and stayed with me. He filled up the kerosene heater every 2 days because that's how long it would be. P.S. The bottom line is none of the water went out of the sewer. There is over 9,000 gallons of frozen water in the basement. So the purpose of me being here is to waive the sewer fee since the sewer wasn't used. And if anybody would like to go ice skating at 520 Park Avenue, consider it an invitation.
Council questions and discussion.
Was there anybody living there?
Prior to that, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. My grandson was there.
Do you have any, I mean, one of the issues is how much water did you use compared to what leaked, and, you know.
I didn't bring any form of bills with me because I don't have that present bill.
Okay.
You know, they called me, Dee called me.
Okay.
And then she said that they went back just to check the meter, and yes, in fact, almost 900 gallons had been used in a 24-hour period. So Kurt went back. By that time, of course, the kerosene heater was under 2.5 feet of water, and the water was shoveled to the street that day. And I can't even give you the date. Maybe it was Tuesday. You guys know.
It was last week. So I can't tell you for sure. After they read the meters.
So
Yeah.
$40 is amounting to how much water?
What Dee Dee said, the bill with how much water she used for the sewer would be $77.60. They had the water on. Just the meter charge would be $11.30 that she would have gotten anyway. The only question is, Kurt had told Jason that somebody was living there. I believe, if I'm not incorrect, the month before it indicated that probably nobody was living there, so probably somebody lived in there just during that period of time. Would that be fair? I'm not sure.
I don't even know which period of time you're referring to.
They would be for the month of January.
January. Daniel moved out sometime like January 15th. It was a Monday.
Yeah. So that's the only variable that nobody would know, you know, how much, you know, one person, was it just him? One person would use for approximately
so there's no
a month.
records in December or anything?
Well, sure, we have previous bills. I didn't bring them with me.
But I don't know that it went through usage.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
For privacy's sake, I'm not allowed to present.
I understand that.
That's the reason why you don't have any of that information.
Well, average consumption is 80 gallons per day per person per household, so take 80 gallons a day times 30 would give you about what a normal person would use. If they do laundry and...
Well, give me some history here. What's been done in the past? Have we ever had a...
That particular house had a leak several years ago. There is not a drain in the basement. It is a dirt floor, I believe, and does not even have a drain that would drain into the sewer system.
Right.
And at that time, that sewer was forgiven, and it probably was 10 years ago.
No,
Maybe
it probably
longer.
was 96, maybe.
Okay.
Because,
Okay.
yeah, because we bought the house in 98.
It can't go
So
into the
14
sewer
years.
because there's no drain to go into the sewer.
Right, there is no drain that goes into the sewer.
And it was at that residence, it was forgiven.
That's the only time that's ever happened.
And how they did it at that time also was adjusted to what an average usage would be. And they were charged that amount of sewer and forgiven
I didn't even remember the
additional.
girl's name, but she lived on 800.
Jody.
Forgiven. I don't know what amount he was also that he should be paying sewer on. Understand?
I do understand. If the water went into the house, and it literally did, you know, I don't even know what 9,000 gallons worth of water cost.
the water portion, I just have the sewer portion is
Okay.
77. The water would be a little less than that. Our
Maybe
sewer's a
right.
little
I
higher.
don't have a problem paying for the water that's now frozen in the basement. I do have a problem paying for the sewer that wasn't used. I mean, the water is there. We know the water is there, you guys know the water is there. You know, but we use the water.
Okay, but
Not
it's,
happily.
you know, I sit there, my wife has to have a large garden or a lot of flowers outside, you know, and I don't have a separate meter for that, you know, and she burns through a lot of water, and that water does not go through the sewer either. You know, it
But
goes.
there's no
it runs.
flowers being watered here.
I realize that, but it's the same principle. It's still going in the dirt, you know, and I don't.
Person that waters the lawn.
How much is she asking
It's
to
not
us to
the
forgive?
same principle, but...
$77.
Like I said, you know, if you would adjust, because like I said, the meter fee she'd have to pay anyway, which would amount to $11.30. Then you're down to $66.30. I guess then it's a matter of if you think, you know, based on what you're saying is, if he used the facilities while he lived there and washed dishes and that kind of thing, you know, he would have used some sewer. And, you know, that variable, I don't know, but
Mhm.
everybody would agree was fair.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, is it safe to say we compromise and meet in the middle?
Give me a middle.
You would owe the 1130 anyway,
Right.
and half of the 6630 remaining is 3315, so 4445 is your portion.
You want me to pay for half the sewer fee? Is that what you're saying?
Considering that water usage would be used in that time frame he's living there.
And what's the period of time? From what
it
date to
could have
what
been
date?
January, pretty much all of January.
That's not the answer. I'm just
No,
coming
I'm
up with
You know, I think that's a good
I think
compromise.
that's
a compromise.
Well, you've set a precedence before, not you particular people, but there was a precedent set before with the former owner.
There's also been a precedence to reject these too, though. I can't tell you in history we rejected 90% of the requests to come before the council on forgiveness. I do know that for a fact, because
Well,
we've ran into that before.
I understand. That has, you know, that's them, this is a particular situation, a particular piece of property. Again, I have no problem paying for the water that was used because it's fair. That's the right thing to do.
But you need to pay for the sewer that he used too. That's what we're saying.
Prior to the leak,
Whenever
he
he
was
flushed the toilet,
utilizing-
washed the dishes, it went down the sewer, so that portion of the sewer should be paid. And that's what we're trying to come up with here.
Okay, what about 33%? I'm trying to be fair here, but when I see the frozen water in the basement, it really upsets
But
me.
really, I mean, to be honest, it's something we shouldn't even have to negotiate over.
But you started it, I didn't start
I understand.
Okay.
I'm saying let's compromise.
it. So am I.
So I'm firm on my decision of saying the 44-45 is your portion. You may free to ask them how they feel about it, but that's where I stand.
Okay, he wants $45.
I'll agree with him.
So you're making that motion?
I'll make a motion that the city's portion is, we will waive $33.15 of that $77.60.
Second.
Call for a vote. Councilman Frahart?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Muscat?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I love the city. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.